What's going on, everyone? Welcome back to another exciting episode of Tackle Productions. Today, I back up joined once again by Jake
What's going on, y'all?
as we go over his Trunks Vegeta deck list. And if you're not familiar with this particular deck, it did top the Play Pro Tour this past weekend? Yeah, I think it's last weekend.
It was like last weekend.
I don't know when this video's coming out. It should come out hopefully the week after or during the week after. But Jake placed 10th at the event, so he made top 16, which is really cool. And we got his list here, so let's kind of get into it. But like always, it's button down below. Feel free to click them. They're there for a reason. But Jake, your list.
So I took the new Trunks Vegeta deck, some people call it Yellow Trunks, to TCG Con. I just really like playing Yellow, and I felt like this deck in Sin Shenron was really like what I was thinking about playing, and I felt like a more aggressive deck would end up being better for me just to like avoid time rules situations. And I think I only had one match go to time all day, so that worked out for me. I ended up going 5-2. My first round opponent didn't show up. I played against a Gogeta Xeno, 2 U7s and 3 King Piccolos. It was like a 7-round event. So I basically played against red all day.
Yeah, you saw red all day, where I saw red like twice, I think.
Oh, yeah. So I guess without further ado, we play 4 of each 1-drop. I've seen some lists trying to cheat a little bit and only play 3 of one or the other. The Vegeta you definitely need 4 of because it's your Awakened condition. And since the Trunks goes and finds this, and this is so important to our list, I feel like you need 4 of these. Plus, you want to be able to evolve as many times as you can over the course of the game, because on your backside, the first evolve you do each turn is going to net you an extra card. So your evolves that replace themselves end up being a +1, and that just makes the card economy much better for the current metagame, where it's just everything is most aggressive decks are playing everything for free or for 1 energy, and we need a way to like combat that a little bit. Speaking of, we play 4 of both of these. We want to evolve as much as we can. The Trunks is really, I think, more important to go into if you're on the play. And then if you're on the draw, I think you kind of want to see a Vegeta a little bit to maybe remove a threat that has swung at you. Of course, both of these is fine. In certain matchups, it's fine to tap out on turn 2 and evolve into both of these and draw 3 cards. Like, that's not a terrible play. But against a lot of the metagame, like against everything I played all day, in most cases you want to leave 1 energy up so you don't just outright die on their turn 2 or turn 3. We played one more little evolve engine. We played this Lord Slug Evil Invader. I thought this would be really good because King Piccolo doesn't draw at all off of its leader, really. Just on the Awaken, it'll draw 3. And then outside of that, King Piccolo has to remove this 3-drop if they want to really play their game at all, which kind of ended up happening all day. And that took a lot of the removal pressure off of my Vegetas and Trunks, which allowed them to stick around for multiple turns and clear multiple battle cards or rest multiple things. And it actually allowed me to turn this Trunks sideways. As long as this was on the board, I knew they weren't going to swing into this, at least until they cleared the slug off. In other matchups, this entire package just comes out. I expected to play against KP all day, so I put this in the main. Against every other matchup I played all day, these came out game 2 every time. We went with a 3-1 super combo split. If you guys watch the channel, I hate splitting my super combos 3-1. I would much rather, for personal preference, play 2-2. But Jimmy actually, from our team, convinced me that 3-1 was just the better way to go. Because with 3 of these, you can safely let your opponent put you to 4 and defend from there. And against U7, especially the more aggressive list, I would let them put me to 3. And as long as I had a couple of these in hand, I knew I wasn't going to outright die. So it just let me lean on what Yellow's good at, which is building a lot of cards in hand and then dumping them all in really small effects over the course of a couple turns and grinding out the game. Chilai was huge because it rested Unisons. A lot of people think you're going to play the Zamasu super combo, and the Chilai lets you swerve and rest a Unison or really punish your opponent for attacking incorrectly and resting a leader. Also, she has the additional benefit of being able to pop a skillless battle card on your turn. There are a few decks in the meta that play skilllesses, but mostly what we want to do is turn a very powerful obstructive card off with Final Flash on our leader swing, and then just pop it with Chilai. It's a way to get around literally any battle card in the game. You turn off all of its skills, ignoring barrier with Final Flash, and then just pop it. This was kind of the reason I had this at 2 and was reluctant to go to the 3-1 split, but you see this when you need it. You draw so many cards in this deck. Next up, let's just talk about Frieza. He's a little bit of disruption. I play it at 3. A lot of people just auto-slam this to 4. But in the current meta, we already talked about King Piccolo. Black has Super Kamehameha. Any other red deck has the Vegeta Resolve renewed. Just about every color, blue has Desperate Measures, so just about every color has a way around this guy. So his value has gone down a lot since his popularity has gone up, if that makes sense. People are pretty much building their sideboards or their main decks specifically to get around this guy. And playing 3 copies lets us play more other kind of goofier stuff in the list. This is a 55 card deck. And going forward, there are a couple things I think I would cut to make the overall list smaller, but I don't think I'm going up on this. I think 3 is the number. Same kind of logic with Turles. A lot of people automatically put Turles at 4, but paying 2 energy for a Turles, clearing 2 battle cards, is nowhere near as good as paying 1 energy for a Vegeta Evolve, drawing 2 cards, swinging, popping a battle card and rest, ignoring barrier, and potentially killing the other battle card with the 20k body that Vegeta gives you. And it's 1 energy cheaper. Turles is really only used when we don't have a Vegeta to evolve into, or when we need to clear multiple battle cards by playing Turles and Vegeta in the same turn. Basically, 2 energy ends up being a little bit expensive for this list, so that's why I kind of cut it down to 3. Just the Vegeta is just so much more value. It's just a better Turles in your list. Because as long as you're properly set up, you're always going to have one of these on board. And if you don't, you leader swing and put 1 out. Then just evolve and continue your turn. Next up, we play 1 copy of Frieza Divine Transformation. This is just for games that went a little bit too long for my liking. It's going to clear all of your opponent's cards in rest mode, battle cards, that is. And really what we want to do with it is use the auto to kind of freeze our opponent out. We want to swing with this and try and bait them to activate a negate with any kind of battle card swing. And then we're going to use this to elect to keep their leader and another card that's powerful like an energy or a unison rested. So they can't really extend their turn without investing further energy into the board, which, if they're not properly set up, Trunks will just rest whatever they try and play anyway, and then Frieza blocks. So you're kind of comfortable tapping out for this on 5 as long as you're properly set up. And I will say in my games, this didn't really do what I wanted it to do. I got to keep a leader rested a few times, but King Piccolo just uses the Activate Battle on another battle card swing, and U7 the games very rarely lasted long enough for this to be relevant, and even when it was, I didn't want to tap 5 for it. So going forward, I think I might move this to the board and bring it in for blue specifically. We played Pan. You see a lot of these Yellow Trunks lists playing Cell, and I don't think that's correct. The math on all of these battle cards ends up being kind of goofy, where you would need to remove 2 Vegetas and 2 Trunkses, or all 4 of your Vegetas, or a robot. Like, it becomes a very hefty cost to play Cell when you can just jam Pan for free on either turn, steal a battle card. This card just enables so much, and it's almost always going to be free for us. And even if it isn't, we can swing lead and get a 4 energy discount just for swinging with our leader. So I think Pan is 100% the choice here. I'm sure you can win games off of Cell, and I'm sure if you're really heavy on that 8-drop, then that makes it way easier to play Cell. But I'm not a big fan of the 8-drop, so I think Pan is the way to go if you're not in that heavy 8-drop version of the list.
I know that's very similar to like Fluff. When Fluff's he did Shinron. In his profile, he explained why he chose Kai over Cell. And also, a lot of times people are expecting in a yellow or a green deck that Cell play. I'm like, okay, here it comes. And you're like, you know what, just pass turn. They're like, and they're a little bit thrown off. Like, okay, he's got a Cell card. I need to go for a game. Now swing, negate.
I know in my game with Jay, on turn 4, I forget if it was game 1 or game 2, whichever game that I did win, I actually played Pan, and he was caught a little bit off guard. He was like, oh, I thought sure you were playing Cell. And then we ended up having to play the whole set out, I think, honestly, just because of Pan. When we play the Hidden Kai, you guys know that I just prefer the art on Hidden Kai over Champa. 2 energy, 15k isn't really relevant for us. We're just double striking with this. And there's a lot of good targets to throw this on. You get a 50k with Pan. You get a 29, which is an awkward number on this double strike Trunks. It's just you need this if you're killing your opponent with battle cards. We played Secret ID. The reason we played Secret ID and not Fighting Against Fate in a more like aggressive list is a lot of people are playing the blocker negates, and one blocker negate completely shuts out Secret ID, or shuts out Fighting Against Fate, excuse me. You swing with Fighting, they activate the blocker negate, and token comes out and blocks the second Fighting Against Fate swing. Well, with Secret ID, you swing with other cards, and they play the blocker negate, then you play Secret ID, warp the token and whatever else you want to, and swing with Secret ID, and you still get a 25k attack in that if they want to play a blocker negate, they have to take another life. I had a game where I was playing against King Piccolo, and they activated Testing the Opposition, played a token. I swung with another battle card. They activated another Testing the Opposition, which they got out of their life off of the first one. And I just played Secret ID, warped both tokens, and swung in.
What? Why would you block the first one?
Maybe you want the combo power, or maybe you just don't see the Secret ID play. Honestly, I feel like when you get the second Testing the Op out of your life with the first one, it kind of entices you to just go ahead and activate that second one too, because you can pick up another card out of your life, which KP doesn't mind to do at all.
And like you said, I think it's only blue and yellow that aren't the 5k combos, so just having an extra combo power on the crackback is always nice. So
yeah, so good to just have this around. I played against blocker negates all day, this 8 tokens all day. Actually won round 7 with this guy, so I'm really, really happy I chose Secret ID. Then we've got Goku Steadfast. This is actually kind of underperforms in this list. We only run 2 copies, and the main reason we have it in the main board is against Sin Shinron. We just want to hold one of these in hand until turn 6, and then when they go to tap out, you just rest everything, because it's worded the same way as Crusher Ball. It ended up just getting eaten alive by the King Piccolo Unison, the Piccolo Jr. Unison all day, and I boarded these out almost every game. Going forward, I don't think this is a main board card for this list. I don't know what else you would play in this slot, because you do need some kind of counterplay, but getting the extra rest isn't really that relevant, or at least it wasn't for me, because once they got around Trunks, the second card they were playing, you know, that they actually wanted to hit me with would often have deflect or not. This guy wouldn't really stick around to block anything after he came down, so it just wasn't super good for me. We played 1 cooler in the main. Maybe I just cut a Steadfast and run 2 coolers and figure out what to do here. We had another cooler in the board. I only brought in the second copy once, and I don't think I got to use this all day, but that doesn't mean this isn't a good card, and doesn't mean you don't have to play this in your yellow decks. It's basically the reason I play yellow, is this having a way to interact with counters. Next, we've got Bergamo. Bergamo also did nothing for me all day. Like we talked about with Turles, the 2 energy ends up being really expensive. And even though you pretty much guarantee resting something every turn, a lot of people play counterplays that just crap all over this card. You have God Sealing, which is just going to put it back in your hand. The only time I activated this in the tournament, my opponent played the Kettle counterplay, so they got to board a 20k instead and just spent the 2 energy on their counterplay instead of having it rested. So I think in the future this can just come out, or you can put it in the board for like more control-y type matchups. But it's a very powerful card, but I don't know if it's 100% right for this deck. Or maybe I just wasn't playing it correctly. 2 Poutine, I think you need 2. A lot of people try and get away with 1, but you really want to see it to try and establish the lock. Furthermore, you can combo a Poutine using a rest effect on like a Frieza or a Trunks later in the turn, and then play another one, and then you're set up again to rest another card played by skill, which a lot of decks just can't get around. So the second copy ends up being really clutch and really unexpected. If anything from this deck is going to get hit, I expect it would be Poutine. And honestly, I feel like that would be a pretty big hit to the list, but you could still play this deck without this card, but I don't know how high of a tier this deck would be without access to Poutine. We run 2 Basil, just a really solid 19k. Once your opponent has a bunch of stuff rested. King Piccolo, this is usually live on turn 2 or 3 because they have so many battle cards in play that they've attacked you with. This basically just attacked Piccolo Unisons all day, and it replaces itself when you play it. Maybe this is another thing to cut a copy of Steadfast 4 and go up to 3 Basil. That's just something you can experiment with at home. And then we played 1 copy of this 8-drop. I did not like this card. A lot of people really do like this card. I played it at a 1-of because I remember I told my teammate, he was like, you should cut that. I said, I bought it, I'm going to play it. It's not like it's an expensive card or anything, but you can... The best usage I have found for this is in kind of like a pressure situation where you're trying to pressure your opponent. You can swing lead, put 2 1-drops out, and immediately suck the 1-drops up and go into this and just get 1 activate battle. Even though you can suck up 3-drops, it's almost never a good play unless you're like going for game or something, because you just spent 4 cards, even though you only spent 2 energy. You spent 4 cards to play 1 card that doesn't even have deflect. So I think in the future this probably goes into the board. It only comes in for matches where I'm trying to like out aggro my opponent. But this deck is really good at pivoting from aggressive to defensive back to aggressive. So that's just kind of what yellow does. And then for Unisons, we only played 1, and we only played 2 copies. This is probably my favorite yellow Unison in the game. Really good at just resting stuff and getting it out of your way, triggering your Poutine. You can -3 and wipe the board of everything that's rested and draw a card to boot. A solid play I like to do with this card, more in other lists than in this one, is to play a copy and then immediately bottom load a copy and -3. So you still have the Unison on board next turn for them to... It's just kind of more of a red herring to keep them from swinging at your life. But at only 2 copies, you're very rarely going to be able to do that. This is just kind of a board wipe when you need it for 3 for us, and you get to attack with it twice. Then extra cards, Power of a Super Saiyan at 1, so we play 1. I don't really think we need to explain this guy too much. Just a really broken card, honestly.
GoodYellow.com?
Yeah, goodYellow.exe.
Yeah.
We played 3 Vegeta's Final Flash. This card was absolutely massive for me for the entire event. Won games with it, arguably stole games with it. It just does what it always has. Like, just steals games out from underneath opponents and enables the Chi-Lai, where you can turn a card off and pop it like we talked about before. It's 15k power for 1 energy. Honestly, you could probably play 4 of this. I thought lists that were playing 4 of these were a little bit crazy, but you could get away with playing 4 of this if you wanted to. But 3 was enough for me, where I could charge 1 and then have 1 in hand for the rest of until I needed it. You know, we played 3 of these Frieza's Army Reinforcement. With Power of the Super Saiyan at 1, it's really important to have some kind of free interaction with your opponent. And even though, like we've talked about, like there's a lot in the meta that makes these blocker negates worse right now, It's still a good way to take yourself down from 5 to 4, so you can use your super combos. It's a free negate, but these did come out occasionally throughout the day, and I'll explain that more when we get to the sideboard. And then 2 of the new Realm of the Gods. I used to have this at 3, but sometimes it's just not that good. Sometimes it just feels a little bit too expensive for 1 energy, especially when most of the threats your opponent plays are going to come in rested anyway. And then the big threat, they're just immediately going to turn sideways, so this never really gets to rest anything. We used it offensively a couple times to just kill something in rest mode and get the boost on power. But when you need it defensively, it's super clutch. A lot of people just forget that this is a thing you can do. And you'll get to draw a card during your opponent's turn as well. And then we'll go to the side deck. We played Cooler, an extra copy, like I talked about before. Played an extra copy of Divine Transformation. If the plan was, if I played against blue, I would take the 8-drop out and bring this in. I didn't play against blue all day. The second copy never came in. 3 Oceanus. I brought these in every time I played U7. I would take out... let's see. I would take out Trunks Unisons and things like that. That I just didn't think I was going to be using in that matchup. I didn't really play this all day, but the threat of being able to play it made me feel really safe in that matchup. And I played 3 copies to try and dodge Crown, where if you get crowned, hopefully you have 2 copies in your hand, and then your opponent can only hit 1, and they have to think about a different way to do their turn. 2 Time Magic. Honestly, I would probably bring this up to 3. This came in so much for me. I brought this in against King Piccolo more for the fact that the blockers are getting popped anyway. And if I'm at 6, I can use this as long as I've got Sparking. So it's another way to get a free negate. I brought these in against U7 to keep the dual attackers down. This just came in a lot for me all day. I think it's coming back up in the power level of yellow negates now that Power to Super Saiyan is limited, and there's so many ways to get rid of those blocker tokens going around. Then I played 3 of this Vegeta Unison of Fury. In the future, I'd probably cut this to 2 copies in the board and just straight up swap them 1 for 1 for the Trunks matchups. I brought this in against Gogeta Xeno and ended up charging it just the way that game worked out. I brought it in against U7 as well. Just a pretty solid Unison, although I didn't get to use it throughout the event, but I would probably still sideboard it. Now, I played 3 of these Gohan and Videl power couples. This was mostly to snipe Dark Power Black Mass Saiyan, Bobbity if you go up against AOD.
There it is. I was waiting for it.
There's a few things. This replaces itself when you activate the effect, and you can potentially minus 5k on 2 things. The reason I put this in the board was for the mirror, especially if I win game 1 and my opponent's going first game 2. And if on turn 1 they just jam out their 1-drops, you just mulligan for this, tap 1, kill both 1-drops, draw a card, and now they're going to have to spend energy to awaken, and they might not even have other copies of the 1-drops. Yeah. So you could just lock them out for multiple turns.
1 energy to draw a card on alone is good enough, and the fact that it just bags out 2 cards by 5 is pretty awesome as well.
Yeah, ignoring barrier. These actually never came in all day. I could have brought them in against Gogeta Xeno to hit the weenies, but I felt like 1 energy was way too expensive for that, and these just kind of sat in the sideboard and rotted all day. Even when my opponents brought in BMS, I just didn't feel like changing the consistency of my deck to play this card was worth it, so this never came in. I don't know if it's bad, though. I think it's still a good sideboard option. This guy, Hellfighter 17, the Neutralizer, this was specifically for the big 8-drop Gogeta Xeno and the 8-drop UI and the Vegeta Secret Rare in U7. I brought this in against U7, but not really in any of my other matchups. The thought process was, when they play the 8-drop Goku, you play this guy, negate its skills, because it's on the auto and not on the counterplay portion. And then when the Goku's auto activates and blows him up, he'll go to the drop area, and you get to negate another one of your opponent's battle card skills. So you kind of get to turn off 2 of the U7 attackers when this comes down. I never played this all day. It ends up 2 energy ends up being really expensive in this list, like we talked about before. And while Hellfighter is one of the better solutions to that 8-drop UI problem, I just didn't need it in the event. I boarded them in and ended up charging 1, I think. So, and that's the list. Placed 10th. Didn't really expect to do that well, but Bancroft actually called it before the event. It was like the weekend before we were playing at our local shop, and he was like, "Yeah, you're getting top 16." So he did call that.
I also called more. Unfortunately, some of our other players got kind of screwed out of certain matchups, but
yeah,
it happens.
Well, at least one of your predictions came true.
Oh, yeah. We all did fairly well at that event, which is pretty nice. So
yeah, I just want to give, of course, a big shout out to AOP, everybody that helped me test, Nick, Jimmy, Fluff, Austin, Bancroft, Trevor, just everybody. I got games in against, I think, everybody grinding this deck for the event. Took a lot of suggestions from people and ended up working out for me. So I'm probably going to be playing more of this in the future. Just a preemptive apology to those of you who watch the channel habitually. And I'm excited to get back out there. And
with we got other events coming up around the corner, so not saying he's going to play that, but hey, he did pretty well with it. He may bring it back. Thank you all for tuning in. Hope you enjoyed today's video. Keep in mind those buttons up below and on the screen. And Jake, any last words?
No, just still super excited. Really enjoying the Dragon Ball community in addition to the card game, and looking forward to what we're going to do in the future as a channel. So thanks for watching, everyone.